Instruction, golf news, equipment, travel, interviews, course profiles, and more. Your weekly fix of all things golf is about to begin. It's the Flagstick Podcast with your hosts, Jeff Botter and Scott McLeod. Well, welcome, golfers, to another episode of the Flagstick Podcast with myself, Jeff Botter, and my good friend, as always, Scott McLeod. And the Flagstick Podcast is sponsored again this week by TaylorMade with Stealth. They have pushed past the limits of titanium and introduced the world to the carbon wood age. So how far are they willing to take it? Good question. Way past far and into forgiveness. Introducing all new Stealth 2 Plus, combining elements of speed and forgiveness to unlock forgiveness. Visit TaylorMadeGolf.ca to learn more. Now, just before we jump into our show, as always, we want to remind you to follow us on social media, all the social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok. Subscribe to us on Spotify, Audible, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and we do really encourage you to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Like us and click on the notification bell to make sure you never miss a single episode. We've already begun adding some unique content, and we're going to start some contesting pretty soon. Scott keeps bugging me about it. I will get to it. I promise. Contest stuff is coming. I just got some irons in the fire. Is that the typical thing? I got irons. I have irons. Did you catch it? I have irons in the fire.
I caught it.
All right. Scott.
Yeah. How are you, man?
Have you played some golf?
I played 9 holes. It's cold.
Still chilly out. Like
it's still like I played 9 holes with my daughter on Saturday night, I guess it was.
Right.
She said, "Hey, let's go play." So got a chance to get out first time here in Canada this year. Was nice for the first 7 holes, and then I think winter started to hit again. So yeah, it's been tough. I mean, you know, I was out teaching the other night. I mentioned to you I had a couple lessons Tuesday night, I believe it was.
Yeah.
And man, courses were, you know, it was pretty quiet in the evening because once that sun started to creep down,
whew,
it was a little brisk. So
it gets nasty. Yeah. You
What
might
about
notice
you?
I've got the if those watching on YouTube, I got the life preserver on today.
Yeah, I see that, Marty.
It's a little chilly in my office, so I'm going with the lightweight hoodie and the poofy vest in the office today for the podcast. You may also notice those may also notice they can hear me this week.
Yes.
It was pointed out to me by my good friend Scott McLeod on the other side of the microphone here that my microphone must not have been on.
Well,
as it turns out, there was
a microphone.
There was a technical glitch.
Yeah.
There was a technical glitch which has been resolved this week. So now you can hear my booming, often very intriguing voice. Clearly.
Is that what your wife says?
I don't know. No, she doesn't really talk about my voice that much. I don't think she's ever listened to the podcast. Actually, that's not true. I think she has listened to the podcast because she's on the email list.
Well, there you go.
She's on the database.
I will say, thanks to all the listeners again. I mentioned stuff last week, but we are actually, we're a year in here now, and we're actually having our largest download month ever in this April. So thanks to all the new listeners that are out there and the continuing support of the other listeners as well.
Well, that's the thing. We try to build these things. They don't grow. They don't grow in leaps and bounds overnight. It's a slow growth. It's like planting the seed and adding some water and getting a little heat. And
well, here's the thing: we're on episode 39. If you dig through the podcast and dig through lots of stats, and I was helping a friend go through because they've got a new podcast and it's been quite successful so far. Our friend Jenny at the Morning Hot Tub. So they've got a podcast now. They've moved it over there and just talking about different stats and things like that. The average podcast only lasts 6 episodes. It's because people just bail on it. I mean, there's 2 million podcasts out there.
It's a lot of work.
There's probably 500,000 that disappear. And you're right. What ends up happening is that people realize, 1, they either run out of ideas, or 2, they just go, man, this is just, this is too much work for.
Well, it's easy too. It's easy too when you kind of get the momentum going and then it stalls a little bit. And we've had that happen with this podcast a few times where things come up and you don't do a week, and then maybe you don't do 2 weeks, and then it's very easy at that point to say, what's the point of doing this? Well, we didn't do that. Obviously,
No.
we had, as soon as we were able to, we get back on the microphones and start recording, and we have endless amounts of stuff to talk about. So the beauty of this podcast is I can highly doubt that there will ever be a time where we don't know what to talk about for an hour. Or a half an hour or an hour and a half. My God, some of these podcasts are for an hour and 45 minutes, which is longer than really we want them to be. But when you got stuff to talk about, you got stuff to talk about. Like it's endless amounts of stuff.
You haven't run out of things in 27 years.
No, it's funny when you mention the podcast thing, because how most podcasts don't last past 6 episodes. In 1996, when we started the magazine, the statistic in the industry back then was that it was a staggering percentage, and I don't remember the exact percentage, but it was a staggering percentage.
I think the average magazine at that time was basically the same as an NFL running back. It was actually done in 2.5 years.
Yeah. Like the percentage of magazines that made it past 5 years was like 10%.
Yeah.
If not lower. And we were in that 10% or that 5% after 5 years, and we were there after 10, we were there after 15, we were there after 20, we were there after 25, and then even after the magazine was taken away from us because of COVID and high printing costs and stuff, and we were no longer able to do the print magazine, we're still doing Flagstick under the flagstick.com banner exclusively now. So you can kick us. You can kick us all you want. You can't get rid of us. It's too hard.
On that note, actually, it's kind of interesting because obviously Flagstick was always a free publication that was supported by advertisers and other things that we did. And then people don't really realize, kind of the cost of paper and what really gets into. And here's a great example for you. I was going through the checkout the other day and going through the till, and I happened to look up at a couple of magazines, and I had, to be fair, I mean, I love magazines. Usually when I jump on a plane or like that, I grab some.
When you jump out of a plane?
Well, no, onto a plane.
Oh, onto a plane. Okay.
Usually grab a couple of things, usually not golf. It usually might be something tech related or something like that, just for reading, right? But I really don't pay attention too much to the pricing and how it's gone with that.
Yeah.
I literally saw magazines that were $18. I think a single publication of a larger, we'll call it national golf publication out of the US now is like $12.99 a copy. And people have to realize it's like, there's a reason for that. There's a lot of expenses that are involved there, but it's kind of shocking when you look at it. Granted, a lot of people do it by subscription, and maybe there's some discounting for that, but single copies, it's up there now. It's really up there.
I don't really buy magazines that much anymore. I don't travel either the way I used to, so the need to have them, I gather my stuff off the online most of the time now, and from time to time I might buy a magazine.
Well, I mean, here, and I mean, to that point as well, and we've said this to a number of people, despite the fact that we're not in print anymore, our readership is actually higher.
Quite significantly. Quite significantly. I mean, especially right now. But anyway, let's get to the topics at hand here. I mean, we could just chit chat about random stuff forever. It's just what we do. This is what happens when I call Scott after I drop the kids off at school in the morning, and I get in the car and I call him, and it's just this free flowing discussion of just about random everything. So anyways, we got a great show for you this week, as we always do. We're going to start with Canadian Tourism Week, golf courses across the country. And on the back nine, we are going to hear a little bit about golf in New Brunswick from Adam Chamberlain and Chad Townsend of Gowan Brae Golf Club in New Brunswick. With Scott did a little interview with them, and recently had a little tour out there. So we're going to get into that in the back nine, but let's get to the front nine, presented by Metcalf Golf Club. A natural setting, a pleasant challenge, and it's looking good over there, let me tell you. Golf season may be closer than you think. In fact, it is closer than you think because it's here. So don't wait. Start saving on your golf this season. Buy a membership if you can get one. Join a league, purchase some game packs, and be ready to hit the first tee. Visit metcalfgolf.com to shop now. And like I said, I live right near there. It's looking really nice.
You haven't played? Come on, get over
there. Okay.
Oh yeah, sorry, you're wounded. Yeah,
I am very wounded.
Let's not get into that.
Let's not go there. So, anyways, let's get into talking about first off the course opening calendar on flagstick.com. Crazy busy with changes and updates and stuff on a regular basis. Some 90 plus golf courses are going to be open this weekend.
It's over 100 now. I wrote that number last night, and I've had more updates just this morning. And people have to recognize that, kind of tracking all these golf courses takes a lot of time and work. And I will tell you, as soon as I find out, I get updates up there. I have an option to do it through my phone, but it is happening 24/7. And which is
pretty soon is not going to be a need for the calendar because pretty soon, if 100 plus golf courses are opening this weekend, there's not that many left to open. So the calendar will, we'll keep it up for a couple more weeks after this weekend, and then we'll probably take it down.
Or at least, the post stays there or whatever.
Yeah, it doesn't go away, but
it just falls off the front page.
Exactly. So, it's pretty exciting to see the golf course. I mean, I know my son and his buddy, they're going golfing tomorrow.
Nice.
I'd love to go with them, but
you could putt and chip.
No.
Okay. No. I will say we're at the tipping point. I always think 100, out of 150 for Eastern Ontario, Western Quebec, which is the area that we're talking about, which is where we track. It's at that tipping point now where more courses are open than closed. Obviously, it's a lot of golf courses that are more in the northern, upper Ottawa Valley, but we're starting to see them open, and those deeper into Quebec as well. We've got a few courses just kind of holding off just because the weather's not warm, so they're taking time to do some, extra maintenance. But overall, I will say the reports back from everyone, be it operators, golfers, or so forth, the courses are in fabulous shape. Probably one of the best springs ever so far. We'll cross our fingers and don't jinx ourselves, but condition of the turf is really strong. So that's great to see for those golf courses.
They could just bottle that and sell it every year. Unfortunately, the winter really does dictate what the spring is going to be like, and we had a relatively mild winter, not a lot of deep frost, and we didn't have the significant freeze thaw at the beginning of the year. It was kind of a little bit, but it was a good thaw. So a little bit of rain, a lot of the planets all aligned, so to speak.
And that includes, as I'll mention, Equinel, where obviously we host the Flagstick Open. They're open now as well, so good to see that. Less than a month.
I know. I got a little Zoom call with Scott McEnroy next week.
Awesome.
To just go over some details. But I mean, as it sits right now, the field is full. There's about 30 or 35 currently on the waiting list. Maybe a little longer, more than that now. Generally speaking, a couple weeks out from the tournament, we start to see a little bit of movement on the wait list. So those that are on the wait list, it's still possible that you could get in. But there's always the 2-ball in the fall, and there's always something else in the summer.
We keep hinting. We
might be making an announcement about within the next week. So we're just dotting some I's and crossing some T's right now on the third event in the year. So let's leave it at that for now.
I like it. All right, cool.
Okay, Scott. What do we want to talk about? Let's get into the OVGA.
Yeah, we just had some news here. I mean, Golf Ontario actually just had they have a couple of different golf days for officials and so forth. They do some training across the province. They had one down at the Brockville Country Club. Use that opportunity. Kyle McFarlane, who's the new CEO, good friend of ours, used that opportunity to recognize Jim Davidson from the OVGA for his work as the Dick Grimm Distinguished Service Award as part of Volunteer Week. It was Volunteer Week last week. Obviously, volunteers are really the heart of golf. Not everybody is paid to be, operating tournaments and doing all sorts of different things. So it really relies on the volunteers. Jim has, done a lot of work with the OVGA. He's done some stuff. He's doing stuff with the CJGA. He's jumped in all over the place, and just a great guy. Really dedicated to the juniors. He really helps out with the supporting the OVGA junior team as well. And he was recognized for those efforts by Golf Ontario.
Yeah, we love Jim. Jim's
great dude.
Has on occasion helped out with our events as well, with the Flagstick Open and Brockville. So congratulations, Jim, on that very well-deserved honor.
Yeah, 100%.
Now, next week, Scott, next week you are going to bring back a little update. You're disappearing again for
just early in the week,
small little sojourn. To a couple of things. You got the media day.
I got two. I got so on Monday, believe it or not, already. I mean, it's May next week, so only just over a month away then to the RBC Canadian Open, which is happening now on an earlier time in the schedule. So they have their media day on Monday. Not sure who's going to be attending or who's going to be there virtually or whatever the case may be, but at Oakdale, where we actually had our golf journalists day in the fall. So just going to get down there and see what the infrastructure is like. And I know they've got a lot of the grandstands up, a lot of things happening there. So hopefully I get a chance to sit down with Brian Crawford, the tournament director, as they did last year there. So, a chance to talk to some of the people there, and then flipping over the next day, heading up to Uxbridge for the Ontario Golf Hall of Fame Day at Wooden Sticks.
Nice.
Should be another warm day at Wooden Sticks.
It might be. You never know. You never know. You might get some warmth. It was not warm last year.
It was not warm, but that was the fall, obviously, too. So it was a little bit different time. This is going back to its traditional time in May. But we're seeing a couple of journalist friends there get some nominations as well. Gary McKay is going into the Hall of Fame. He was a distinguished Lauren Rubenstein distinguished media award winner before, and then Rick Young is receiving the Lauren Rubenstein media award. Younger's getting that. So going up there to support them and see that gang. So it's going to be a busy 2 days for sure.
I hear you. Now, prior to just before we jumped on to do the podcast, another event announcement kind of came down the pipe. So we had to pivot and add something to the list very quickly, just to mention. And I'll let you mention it because this is your thing. You added it.
Yeah, so Endless Summer, which was a long drive event and Pro-Am that took place last year at Trillium Wood in Belleville. It's back this year at the start of July. I said June in my note, but it actually is the early July. And they've announced that two-time World Long Drive champion Kyle Berkshire is going to be a headline competitor. Wow. So if people are not familiar with Kyle, I think a lot of people are. He's kind of a more publicized long drive guy. Obviously got a YouTube channel. He's been seen a lot of other YouTube channels and stuff like this. I've seen this guy hit golf balls in person. And what's scary is I saw him inside hitting balls into a net. That was scary. We're talking 155 mile an hour club head speed, 235 plus ball speeds. So a real coup for them there. Jody Jenkins runs that event down there. He's already got, Jason Zuback in there as the announcer, obviously a multi-decorated Canadian and a World Long Drive champion multi-time. He's got a good list of competitors down there. So just a fun thing to see. And it happens to be kind of this way. Another note, actually, for down that Quinte region, there's two events coming up back to back down there as well for East Coast Pro Tour and Toronto Players Tour. So I think both those events are still looking for players. They're pros and better amateurs. So one's at Black Bear, one is at Trillium. So just a note on that as well. That's not on the sheet. Always something.
That's to say. That's what we say. There's never a shortage of anything to talk about because there's constantly stuff funneling through. Especially now that the season's starting, it's going to be
Just follow our Twitter feed.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
Like
nuts.
I said off the top of the show, follow us on
Yes.
social media.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Let's get into this golf across Canada.
Yeah.
Canadian Tourism Week.
Yep.
There's 2,400 plus golf courses across this great country of ours.
Yeah.
And, we were talking about, we mentioned the economic impact of golf in Canada.
Oh, yeah, it's huge.
Let's just talk about some of those numbers, Scott. Like, talk about those numbers a little bit. What are we looking at? Because it's incredible.
Yeah, obviously tourism is a huge component here in Canada, just general tourism. But when we talk about golf tourism, the impact on golf in Canada study, the economic impact of golf study, the 2019 one, recognized that golf-related travel nationwide had an impact of about $8.68 billion per year.
Insane.
Golfers, they travel. They don't necessarily just play in their own backyard. They don't necessarily say, hey, I'm joining a golf course and that's the only place I go. They take trips. They, blend golf into their summer vacations. They organize their summer vacations around playing certain golf courses. So, it's a growing market. There's approximately 4.8 million trips involving golf. 3 million in their home province, 1.8 outside their home province or abroad for people. So that's a huge opportunity as far as I'm concerned.
It is. And obviously this is from 2019. So we obviously in those 2 years, those two sort of COVID years, we certainly would have seen a downturn in that. But I think that the optimistic side of it is that what it was in 2019, if they were to conduct studies now, into later 2022 and into 2023, that we'd probably be seeing a rise in that again, significant proportions. Yeah. So, it's trending in the right direction. And we're seeing a little bit of that, to be honest with you, through the marketing partners that we're starting to build with flagstick.com. We're starting to see more partners in the golf tourism, but not just from the US. Like there is some US stuff, but we're starting to see a little more
thing that we used to see before.
Yeah, right? We would always, it was always, US based tourism. Now we're starting to see, from out west, we've got some new marketing campaigns on flagstick.com starting this week from Western Canada. Right. We've just recently had a major one from Eastern Canada with Golf PEI. Yep. You've recently taken a trip to New Brunswick. Well, recently, it's recent in my mind, fall. And we've done some new stuff there, and we're building some new partnerships with that group. Obviously, we have the interview that you did with Adam Chamberlain and Chad Townsend coming up in the back nine. That is going to shed some light on sort of what's going on out there and a little bit of your trip. So, there's definitely a huge market, a huge place for golf travel in Canada. And I'd like to see, obviously I love seeing the golf travel in Canada. It's there's some great places to.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of people just don't know about a lot of the areas, and I think that's just more because of the marketing. We traditionally see certain golf courses get the brunt of media attention, and I'll say that's unearned, or we'll call it unpaid. It's just stories about particular things, and no offense to other media outlets or so forth, but they tend not to dig very, very deep. Some do, but some don't. It's really easy to go, hey, I know about Cabot and I know about this facility or this facility, but the fact is there's 2,400. It's not a top 50 or a top 100 or whatever. It goes way beyond that, especially as far as golf tourism. So the areas are starting to recognize that they can provide value, whether it's Golf Vancouver Island or whatever, that if they start to do marketing, they actually start their own momentum. And you know what, it's nice that maybe they have one or two headline golf courses, but it's just like going to Scotland. You go to Scotland, you play the headline, you go play Carnoustie, but Panmure is damn good.
Yes.
Right. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And you might not hear as much about it, but it's really, really good. So once people realize that they don't need to be embarrassed about, hey, we're not we don't have the headline golf courses, but you have something to offer
Yeah.
people. And not everybody is going to pay $300 a round.
Well, no, I mean, the thing is that's, they may want to look at that as one aspect of their trip,
Right.
but then they want to sprinkle in more golf. I mean, generally speaking, when people take these trips to, for lack of a better place to describe, when guys do their Myrtle Beach vacation,
Yeah,
the courses they play on that vacation, they're not playing all,
marquee courses.
TPC,
Yeah,
Caledonia, True Blue. They're not
right.
playing all those because there's
No.
other places that they play as well that are the much lower cost ones that have the cheaper replays and things, because the guys go down there, they want to play some good golf, but they want to golf.
Right.
So when you go on a golf vacation, you want to take in the sights and whatnot of the destination you're going to, but depending on what group is going, some groups just want to go and golf.
Yeah.
And they don't care necessarily about the culture.
Well, the thing
it's
is
important, but they go to golf. And why does it have to be Myrtle Beach?
But they also don't have to have the sweater golf course, I call it, the one where they have to buy the logo and buy everything else, whatever. They just want a solid golf course that they enjoy. And, there's literally thousands of those across this country. I saw it the other day. Phil Jonas, longtime golf pro who's out in Saskatchewan. He was out playing, Pike Lake, which is a very modest golf course in a provincial park out in Saskatchewan. And he said every course has its value.
100%.
Which so it might not be the one that people know about or gets the headlines or gets the big stories, right? But when you dig down to it, it does something. And I mean, from a tourism standpoint, courses just need to have a little bit more pride and realize that people will come. You just have to make them aware that you're there.
Well, and that is really the big thing with it, is that you have to talk about it. You have to have a tourism marketing plan. You can't just expect that someone's going to write a story, or that your website is going to be enough to draw, and posting up some Facebook ads and some social media marketing is going to be enough to draw. You have to talk to the consumer. So for some places like flagstick.com, where we write stories, it's the partners, the travel marketing that we bring in is never just about the marketing. No. It's about the partnership. So when we just finished doing a big ad campaign with a destination in the US at Innisbrook, and part of that marketing campaign was some content that we talked about,
wrote about it,
wrote about the place. Yes, they bought marketing, yes, but more was involved in that, and that's the kind of partnerships that we have. And we're doing the same thing with Golf Vancouver Island coming up, and we've done it with Golf PEI, and we're going to do it with Golf New Brunswick, and and we've done it with Tremblant before.
Here's the interest. Sorry, you just finished that thought, and I've got
for me, I'm in Eastern Canada. Like that's where I've been. One of the things that I would really like to do at some point or another is I would like to broaden my spectrum a little bit and go and do some Western Canada golfing. And I'm expecting that that's going to happen at some point or another. It's just, for me, it's been very convenient for me to do Eastern Canada travel because of where we're located. But you've been all over the country. So I'd like to get out west a little bit and do a little bit, Alberta, BC, Vancouver Island, even some of the central stuff like Saskatchewan and Manitoba. I'd love to do that too, but get out west. But anyway, go ahead.
No, I think the point I was going to make was just, golf courses need to realize that, we get questions and we get DMs and messages and stuff from people all the time. The thing that people ask more than anything is they ask about the golf courses they don't know about. They ask about the destination. They go, hey, I'm going to wherever. I know this golf course. This is where I'm booked to play. Where else do I go play? And that's, I think, the real value. And I think that's where golf courses need to fill in. So you said about going out west and going down east. I mean, I wanted to use an example a little bit of a trip we did in Nova Scotia.
Yes.
I think back 2001 or so.
It's a perfect example.
I think it was the first time I managed to drag you down east. And there was an example at that point. Obviously, Cabot, links didn't exist, but even if it did, our further trip that we did down there where Cabot was there, we visited other golf courses, and there were other great golf courses. I mean, what were particular ones that sort of were memorable for you that maybe people don't even think about or know about as much?
Northumberland Links was the one that particularly those three or four holes right along the Northumberland Straight.
Yeah.
That was like links golf at its finest. Like, it was fantastic to play those holes. The other holes were nice too, but they were up on the hill a little bit on the other side of the road. And
they look differently now after Fiona, though. I've seen new pictures after the hurricane ripped through there, so they're actually looking more links now.
Okay.
Now, anyways, because a lot of trees are down. So
Dundee was awesome. Shitticamp was awesome. Digby Pines.
Yes.
That was really, really good.
And that old Stanley Thompson course.
That's it. We came over on the ferry
from St. John, New Brunswick. Yep.
From New Brunswick, and that was our first sort of stop. But we also played. We also had some other great golf courses that are more of your well-knowns. I mean, we did get up into the Cabot Trail on that trip, but
we played Highlands Links on that one.
Yeah, exactly. But we had White Point was on that that trip, the Hurricane.
Yeah, great, a great 9-holer that south of the Halifax area, and we've talked about it briefly in the show before, but 9 holes by the ocean, and again, underrated. A lot of people will know other golf courses around there, but they just dig deeper. Even that same area as Chester Golf Club is down there. It's a great spot. A lot of people maybe know Granite Springs because it's a newer golf course.
Yeah.
But White Point, a classic old golf course that dates back from the 20s. Really cool resort. And there are literally hundreds of those across this country. And I think that's what the message I was trying to get across a little bit in this segment is that, that economic impact could be even bigger for golf tourism in Canada if we actually just, facilities stood up, puffed their chest a little bit, maybe cooperated with some of the other properties in their area and said, hey, let's really try to attract those people that are already traveling to our area or bring attention to it in their marketing efforts, and not just deal with members and people that are just in their backyard.
Perfect. Great spot to stop there, because we're going to continue the discussion about Canadian golf destinations when we jump into the back nine and we bring on the interview you did with Adam Chamberlain and Chad Townsend of Gowan Brae Golf Club in New Brunswick. We're going to do that, but first we're going to take a quick break, pay some bills, let the sponsors say their thing, and when we come back, we're going to have that interview that Scott did. So stay with us. You're listening to the Flagstick podcast with Jeff and Scott. See you soon.
That's far.
So much forgiveness. Wait, did you say forgiveness like far, or forgiveness like forgiveness? Forgiveness. Forgiveness. Forgiveness.
I'm hearing far.
Forgiveness. Like forgiveness. Forgiveness? Forgiveness.
I'm still hearing far, but whatever.
Introducing Stealth 2 with more carbon for more forgiveness.
Forgiveness. Just hit it.
All right, welcome back to the Flagstick podcast with myself, Jeff Potter, and this guy with me, Scott McLeod. On to the back nine, we say, presented this week by Greensmere Golf and Country Club. Save 40% on all daily green fee rates with FlexPass, which includes 6-day advance booking for only $425 plus tax. Visit greensmere.com for more information. Scott McLeod, we're on to the back nine. And this is one of those weeks where instead of listening to you and I talk about stuff, we get to listen to you do an interview with two guys from Gowan Brae Golf Club in New Brunswick, Adam Chamberlain and Chad Townsend. Do you want to just tee up this interview before we get into it?
Yeah, Adam Chamberlain is the director of golf down there at Gowan Brae. Gowan Brae, if people are not familiar, and I get into it obviously in the interview, beautiful golf course in Bathurst, New Brunswick, has hosted several national championships. And then Chad Townsend, who's the head pro there. Both these guys grew up there in New Brunswick, have gone out, worked other places. Adam, is a really fine golfer, played golf at Simon Fraser University, has a big perspective on, golf in the country as it is. But Chad or Adam spearheaded getting some journalists to come down to sample New Brunswick, and we actually started this process a few years ago. COVID hit.
Yeah,
and,
exactly. That derailed it.
Yeah, so then Golf New Brunswick was involved, the government's involved, and they were trying to get some more attention. They have about 50 golf courses in New Brunswick, but they've always felt like, and people have talked about it nonstop, it's sort of been a drive-through province. A lot of people going to Nova Scotia, going to New Brunswick, maybe going to Newfoundland, but they go to golf for probably Nova Scotia and PEI are big things. They don't stop and play. And what they're trying to get people to do is, they know maybe they're not going to go there and book a week at New Brunswick to start with, but even if they can stop and sample and see some of the great golf courses that are down there. So myself, Jeff Brook, and our good friend Tim Baines made a little road trip down there in the fall. Played a few golf courses, spent some time with the boys, had a look at some New Brunswick facilities for a story that's coming up, should be out soon. Just finishing up, want to get all the details right. This is for the print side of things in flagstick.com. But we thought we'd take the time to have a conversation with these guys, hear from their perspective, not only about their facility, but, golf in New Brunswick in general, from their perspective as two golf pros working in that province. And I think people will enjoy this, and maybe it'll open their eyes a little bit to golf in New Brunswick and the possibilities that it has.
All right. Well, let's not hesitate. Let's not wait. Let's get at it. Here's the interview that Scott did with Adam Chamberlain and Chad Townsend of the Gowan Brae Golf Club in New Brunswick. Check this out.
All right, we're welcomed today by two special guests all the way from Bathurst, New Brunswick. Adam Chamberlain, who's the director of golf at Gowan Brae, and the head professional, Chad Townsend. How are you guys?
Good, Scott. How are you?
Very good. Obviously got a chance to get down and see you guys in the fall, along with a couple other journalists, and Jeff Brook and Tim Baines, and got to visit your fine facility finally for the first time. So, we want to talk a lot about Golf New Brunswick today, but why don't we start with your own facility? Because, for years I had heard about it. Obviously, a lot of people had been there for, national tournaments over the years, stopped off on the way to other places. But, it's got roots back to 1958. It's been 18 holes since 62. A lot of people have played it over the years. Why don't we talk a little bit about Gowan Brae and kind of what it offers, where it is, so forth.
All right. Well, thanks, Scott. We're in northern New Brunswick. I guess we're 2 hours north of Moncton, or I guess an hour from the Quebec border if you're coming straight east. So in northern New Brunswick, but we had a little bit of snow through the winter, but our golf season is pretty good from the end of May through till middle October. But we're happy to have Robbie Robinson design the golf course, as you said, back in the late 50s, and did a great job. We've got 16 of 18 holes with some water views, and we're right in the city, so we're 5 minutes from downtown, and in a great spot to connect between the city of Bathurst, the golf course, and the beach just down the street.
And I think the location is a really cool thing, just because, like you said, the water's kind of right there. And we'll get to one of your golf facilities and its views of the water in a second here, but it's centrally located. You said, it's an hour from the Quebec border, a couple hours from Moncton. If somebody's coming from Ontario, for an example, which a lot of our listeners are coming from Ontario, a lot of them are heading east. For years, they've been going to maybe PEI or Nova Scotia or whatever, but you guys are pretty much halfway, right? And just an easy stop off.
Yeah, when you cross into New Brunswick, a lot of cases you're probably on the Trans-Canada hitting Edmundston going south. If you go east from Edmundston, you're 2 hours to Bathurst and then 2 hours down to Moncton, as opposed to going, I think, maybe 3.5 from Edmonton around to Moncton. So it's really in the middle of that road. We're to 2 hours from Moncton, or basically 3 hours from anywhere on the island, and not much further than Nova Scotia. So if you're coming from Quebec or Ontario and you hit basically at the New Brunswick border at Edmundston, 2 hours east, as opposed to going south and you're in Bathurst.
Which is great. So I mentioned your other facility. Obviously, you have the 18-hole golf course, but one of the things we were all enamored with was your junior course. And I know you guys, being guys that grew up at that club, it's probably an important facility for you guys. But why don't you explain to what's so special about your junior course, especially when we look at the location and being the prime location on the property, and kind of what's cool about that? Because I think in Canada, we don't see a lot of what you guys have there.
Sorry, John, quite a nice little hole right now. Yeah, we're I guess we're fortunate to have a dedicated 7-hole junior course. That is, I guess, lucky for them, situated right along the back down along the coast. They get some awesome views back there from the number 6 tee. So it's basically a dedicated space just for juniors. 7 holes that range between really about 50 yards up to about 110 yards. So it's really just a space that the kids can learn to grow, love the game, play amongst themselves, and really enjoy it.
Yeah, and like you said, they sort of get the run of the place. They get to kind of take care of themselves down there. How often do the adults try to sneak over there?
It does happen sporadically, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, the great views. It's probably the best views in the property. Well, I should say there are some other really good ones on some of the other holes, but just for the fact those 7 holes are kind of right there in the water, and the fact that you guys have kind of get that dedicated to the juniors is pretty special. We're going to talk a little bit about a couple of holes at your golf course before we kind of move on and talk a little bit more about some of the rest of the golf in the province. Couple holes really stood out for the group of us. We were talking about them for quite some time after we left your facility. Beyond the one that Adam made a eagle or albatross on, 17, probably a hole that a lot of people talk about and probably have broken a few hearts over the years. Why don't you describe the 17th for our listeners and viewers?
How do you even explain 17?
Well, Chad and I had $1 for every time somebody said I was 3 under par, or I was even par on 17T, and next thing you know, it's 75 or 76 in the clubhouse. Yeah. But it's
17 is a great long par 3 where good scores go to crash and burn late in the round.
Well, good description. How long is it? It's like 240 off the back tee.
242 from the tips with a forced carry. OB long water all the way along the right with a turtleback green as well, just to toss that in there for extra fun.
Best short par 6 in New Brunswick.
Feels like it sometimes.
Yeah. Most people call it a par 4.
Yeah. How else would you characterize your golf course? Just a brief description before we kind of move on. You've got almost 6,700 yards there, so obviously it's a good test of golf. But what do you think are the key features there?
I think we've got some great flexibility between our forward tees at 5,200 and the back tee at 6,700. You can find a tee deck to play the golf course or maybe to make it enjoyable. What our members like is they play it day in, day out, but with a little bit of wind off the water, it never feels like the same golf course 2 days in a row. So the holes offer a lot of character, have a lot of nice views, but at the same time, you can have some challenges on some small greens and still some nice views of the water. If you make a bogey or a double, you can look off into the harbor and hopefully forget about that bogey.
I think the day we played, it felt like 2 different golf courses on each side of the golf course based on the weather that it was that day, but we still enjoyed it anyways. All right, let's talk a little bit about golf in New Brunswick. I really think, and I've had this discussion a lot of times with some other journalists, obviously Rick Young, who has some ties down there in New Brunswick. And, we think that the New Brunswick golf market is one that's sort of underserved and people sort of miss out. 50 plus golf courses down there. What are your thoughts overall as far as golf in New Brunswick and kind of what it offers the traveling golfer?
I think there's lots of great options, from whether it's, a high-end public facility or even just your great, local friendly, community golf course that from all tips of the province, like you said, almost 50 golf courses in a small province, there's lots of options. But we haven't done, a great job maybe of promoting in the province right across the board, but there's golf courses that you can play from $30-$40 for 18, and I think the province may max out at maybe 100 or 120. So in the golf world, the prices are very reasonable, but I guess maybe don't let the low prices fool you. That I think there's some really, really good golf courses, and our markets tend to maybe keep the prices a little bit lower, but the quality of golf is pretty awesome, and the views. And I guess it always goes without saying that there's always maritime hospitality wherever you go. So we're happy to see people visiting from anywhere and want to show off the golf course that we have right around the province.
Yeah, I mean, I can attest to the fact that, it doesn't matter where you go in the province, you get welcomed. There's no strangers there, that's for sure. You're always seem to be a family or so forth. But I mean, it goes from all aspects of the province, whether it's, like you said, in Edmundston, got some great golf courses up there. Down to Algonquin, where we went after we were there with you guys, which obviously is getting, a lot of acclaim because it's down there on the water, had recent renovations and so forth. But on top of that, there's other golf courses that people just don't even think about, really. What for you guys are some of your ones besides yourselves? I know you're biased, that that maybe that people should think about dropping into or would be surprised by.
Well, I'll throw a couple at you, and then Chad
Sure.
throw a couple more. But you mentioned Edmundston Golf Course, like right in when you cross the border. It's hosted a couple of Canadian amateurs over the years. Great facility. You head south on the west coast of the province. You mentioned St. Andrews, but even you've got Hampton, Riverside Golf Course. There's lots of good courses on the western coast of the province, and coming towards the east coast, obviously we've got Gowan Brae in the north, but we've even got Miramichi, and Restigouche and Puckmush on the north shore, which offers some great views, and maybe not as well known around the province or the country, but the North Shore still offers some really good golf courses so people can enjoy some great scenery and great culture.
And how about you, for Chad?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Adam hit, Adam definitely touched on many of the same ones there, but even some of the courses around Moncton, like your Moncton Golf Club is a great classic course. You have your Mountain Woods, which hits a great price point for the value, and then going, I guess, a little bit further south towards Fredericton with your Fredericton Golf Club, which is a really cool old school track, and even West Hills, which is a recent build in the last 3 or 4 years, I believe. So there is quite a lot of options around the province for sure if you want to take over.
We played West Hills on the trip down there, which was we enjoyed that as well. A Huxham design there. Was surprised by that. Had saw it being developed years ago, the first 9, and then they got the other 9 open as well. But and again, from a quality perspective, travelers are coming from afar. They're not, it's not just all a bunch of country golf courses here. These are quality designs. As you mentioned, your own place, it's Robbie Robinson, who, a lot of people in Ontario would be, familiar with a lot of his designs kind of up here. So I guess that's one of the biggest things is people have to, think that, this is just not a bunch of, guys just laying out 18 holes in the woods, right? You know what I mean? They're actual golf designs more than anything.
There's some of those too, though, Scott.
there is, but obviously that that adds a lot of charm and stuff to it. I mean, it's 2 or 3 things that really stand out is obviously it's a very wooded province. We'll say there's no shortage of trees, so a lot of people that. And as you said, from the coastal views, water views, on top of the oceans and bays and lakes and rivers, they're just everywhere. And that sort of adds a lot of the, the natural element to many of the golf courses.
And a lot of the same things that, people travel to Prince Edward Island for the golf, but for the food and for the beaches, and same thing in Nova Scotia if you're going to Cape Breton for the views. Like New Brunswick has all those same options. The golf courses have got some great views, great features, and great challenges as well. But there's lots of great beaches that you can visit, and there's lots of great, food. You can get lobster around the corner everywhere in this province, and people travel to Nova Scotia and to PEI for those same things, and we offer a lot of the same features with our own twist on them as well.
Yeah, sometimes you just have to put your hand up and go, us too, we've got all that too, right?
That's right.
Quickly then, what do you suggest as far as people when they're looking at an itinerary? How many days should they maybe, stay down there? I mean, can they do it one, is it a stopover, or could they play for a week? And then on top of that as well, how do they go about, looking at maybe booking? What's the easiest way to do that?
Well, in terms of, I guess, booking options, like the Golf in Brunswick website is a great job of listing all the golf courses that are available. We know a lot of people already have travel trips planned to Prince Edward Island or to Nova Scotia. So if New Brunswick is a stopover on the way there or the way back as a 1 or 2 day addition to a trip, that's great. And hopefully once you see, whether it's Gowan Brae in the north or in St. Andrews or the West Hills or somewhere along your trip, hopefully next year you can spend a day or two extra in New Brunswick and see, because as Chet said, you can be in Moncton and play a lot of golf courses, Fredericton, St. John. There's a couple really good courses all around the province, and there's different ways that it doesn't have to be, you don't have to spend a week, but hopefully you can start with 1 or 2 and we can get you to come back again.
Yeah, I'd say for sure. I mean, I've done the province in multiple ways, whether staying at one area, using that as a hub, or doing the drive around like we did in the fall. And I'll say that fall trip, I mean, it's stunning if people get a chance to get down there. I mean, obviously summer is beautiful. Fall can be a little dicier from a weather perspective, but when you see those trees and the foliage out there, as long as you're not having to play through all those leaves, then you're doing pretty well. So thanks a lot, guys. I really appreciate it. Enjoyed our trip down there for sure, and look forward to seeing you guys again.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and we'll selfishly say, don't hesitate to reach out to Golf in Brunswick or at any of the golf courses, our websites or the provinces. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. I think you'll find some pretty friendly people that want to help you along the way, either plan a golf trip or give you some directions on where you're going.
Yeah, I would say the phone calls always get returned, as do the emails as well. So you don't have to worry about having bad service. That's for sure. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much, Scott.
All right. You were right.
Yeah.
Great interview.
Stuff.
Great interview. Some good insight there too. This is a perfect example, in my opinion, the way that this whole this thing transpired with Golf New Brunswick. It's a perfect example of what needs to happen in order to continue to build golf tourism in the country. Is the governments need to lend support, which in a lot of cases they do, and the organizations, the destinations need to get together, put together a plan, and then involve the media in multiple ways, not just in saying, we've got the X number of dollars to spend, we're going to buy ads here, we're going to buy advertising here, We're going to do this.
Exactly.
You need to bring the media there, or groups there. You need to showcase the area, the region, the province, the facilities, the culture, the hotels, the restaurants. You need to showcase all of that so that they will talk about it. Significant people will talk about it, and then you support that with your marketing efforts. And that's how it works. Really. And this is a perfect example of how somebody gets it.
Yeah, I mean, the great part is that it adds a lot of context to it, right? You can put out ads all you want. You can be the advocate on your own end and sit there and say, come see this. We have this, we have this, we have this. But the problem is the credibility comes from the unfiltered opinion, the one that, yes, granted, they're obviously providing support to go down there and so forth, but we're as journalists, we still have to be honest of what's good, what's bad, and they're great about it too. That was the one thing, is like, they'll sit there and say, maybe you go up here and maybe you go here, maybe that golfer would prefer this over this. It's not that there's a bad facility, it's just maybe a different golfer would like a certain facility over another, or a different hotel over another, depending on what their standards are and what they're after. But creating that context, creating that relationship with the media side of it, it creates some genuine interest to it. And you know what, as I said to them after the trip, this is not about one story. There's lots of little bits that we've already had from this, whether it was little reels we've had on Instagram with some different images. It's the carryover. I mean, the conversations I've had since September already of going down on that trip, where people saw, because obviously we are sharing on our social media when we go down there, that we're on that trip. And then I can't even count the number of people that have come back to me and said, hey, you were on that trip. Where else can I go? Or I'm going to Fredericton. I saw you played West Hills. Where else do I play? Where do I stay? What other places should I go around there and build a trip around? And that's sort of the magic of it. And as you said, it's like, you basically start the snowball, and before you know it, it's a big avalanche of things coming in there. And that's how Golf PEI started. That's how other places started as well.
And here's the thing, because I've gotten this over the years, where we'll write about a destination, we'll talk about a destination, whether it was in the magazine back in the day, on the website, through social media, and people will say, well, you'll say anything, for $1. Okay, so I just want to clarify a couple of things here, make a point.
Sure.
First of all, we don't generally get a ton of advertising revenue from a lot of these destinations that we have written about over the years. In a lot of cases, we get none. It's about content.
Yeah.
Secondly, one of the things that does differ, that we do differently maybe from some people in the industry that take the free trip and then talk about it like it's the next greatest place on earth. We're honest. We're very honest. We're more, I would say, more unfiltered with the destination than we are with the consumer. So in other words, what we don't do is, in where we write, we don't talk about how crappy some restaurant was or how awful the condition was at some golf course. When we write about it, we're not so brutally negative as to just shoot them down because of, maybe they weren't in the greatest condition when we played them. But when it comes to discussions with the actual destination, the people that are the owners of that golf course or are our contacts within the destination, we are far more brutally honest with them about things that they need to do differently or things that they should do that they're not doing on these trips than we might be in the public eye. We're honest, but not to the point of derogatory in such a heavy negative fashion.
Yeah, and that's not really the point. I mean, I've seen, as you mentioned, editorial from people where they're there for 1 day. So they don't really see the whole scope of the place and really think about it. They maybe go, hey, my hamburger was late. What's that got to do with anything, really? I mean, it's a one-time circumstance or whatever. The cool part is that, as you said, going and having these conversations, and I will tell you, I've had these conversations, even with Adam and Chad after this interview the other day, and they're ones that we're having continually, and we've had them, Sam McPhail at Golf PEI, who we're going to have on this podcast soon as well, and get his perspective on some things. It's those conversations of what do we need to do better to reach the golfers that are out there? And that's where we lean on our 27 years of experience as being in the golf industry. And, we want to make them better. We're not just trying to polish a turd, right? That's not what we're trying to do. Like we're not trying to oversell stuff or whatever. We're trying to expose those facilities and to people who are going to get value out of going there, but also maybe help these destinations to grow a little bit more, because that's better for golf in the country. And while it's not our job to be the marketing arm as far as a tourism arm for a part of the country, we want the game to be healthy. So I love having those questions coming from Adam and so forth, going, hey, what do we do next? What's the easiest way? And we talked about booking engines and hubs and how to go about putting together some itineraries to make it easier for people when they ask about New Brunswick trips. And here's an itinerary. Here's a place to go. You're going to go for 4 days. Here's the places to play. Here's the possible, places you go. It's not saying you have to go here. You have to go here. You have to go here.
No.
Here's some options for you. And it's just taking care of the research, which is what we get on social media.
Yep.
It's people going, man, I don't know where to go. I don't know anything about this place. Can you help me? Can you at least give me some guidance and help me from that research side? So kudos to those guys. Kudos to everybody in New Brunswick. Luke Lacey as well, who's the executive director for Golf New Brunswick, who's about to move on and going to work in Western Pennsylvania for their association down there. But Luke was part of that trip as well, and making some things happen. And they just did a great job. And it was a smart was a smart outreach to the media to really start things going, and really for me even expose me to golf courses that I haven't seen before, which is fun for me too. And that just grows my knowledge and our knowledge in general that we can share with our listeners and readers.
Yeah, no, it was awesome. Great interview. I hope everybody likes it. So thanks to Adam and Chad for doing that, and thanks to them for organizing, or for the trip for that small group of media down there. Hopefully we get a chance to get down there at some point or another and explore, if you will, as we do like to do. I'd like to get back to traveling a little bit more now that things are changing a little bit. I'd like to start traveling a little bit more for some golf, but
I like it.
So there you go. Okay, great interview. Scott, great show.
Thanks, bud.
We'll end on that note, and we want to we're hopefully, I will say this, we will have a formal announcement in the next week about the new flagstick.com event that is we are planning to happen in the summer. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be great to have it back. And just stay tuned. Something will be on flagstick.com, and we'll talk about it on this podcast.
Yeah.
Hopefully next week. That's my plan.
All right. Sounds
I'll
good.
leave it at that. Thanks to our sponsors, Metcalf Golf Club, Greensmere Golf and Country Club, and our presenting sponsor, TaylorMade with Stealth. They have pushed the limits past titanium and introduced the world to the carbon wood age. So how far are they willing to take it? Here we go. Way past far and into forgiveness. Introducing the all-new Stealth 2 Plus, combining the elements of speed and forgiveness to unlock forgiveness. Visit tailormadegolf.ca to learn more. And as always, I know and I hope and we hope that you're enjoying watching and hearing this podcast. Be sure to follow us across all the social media networks, because we talk about a lot of stuff on social media. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and the TikTok. Subscribe to us on Spotify, Audible, Google Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts. And do not forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Like us and click the notification bell to make sure that you do not miss a single episode. Get yourself over to flagstick.com for more amazing golf content delivered there every day. As always, thanks for tuning in. Until next week, I'm Jeff Botter.
Scott McLeod.
And remember, always go for the stick.